Hey everyone. We are now moving into our last unit of the year. However, this unit's kind of split up into two little sub-units. So in all honesty, it's almost like two different units to kind of finish up this year. The first part has a lot to it. We're going to take our time on it. And the second part, it's real easy, but then you'll probably get like a project on it. So where we're going to start, as you can see here on my screen, is the topic of taxonomy. It's really classifying life into different categories. So if you think about different types of cereals out there, like all different kinds, like Fruit Loops, Trix, Kix, Frosted Flakes, Wheaties, etc., Cheerios. You could classify them into like sugary cereals, the shape, the color, etc. We're going to classify life similarly, but more sciencey, if you will. Where we're going to start is pretty basic, like really, really basic. So we're going to move into the topic of cells. Now, if you think of us, everything that's alive on Earth, anything that's living, is made up of cells. Some things are only made up of one cell, like one microscopic cell, and other things like us are made up of trillions and trillions of cells. Now, for example, us, we're going to have cells in our tissue, in our muscles, fingernails, hair, everywhere. Those cells help make up like our organs and our organ systems and everything. You're going to learn about more of that next year, if you will, but I just kind of wanted to get you set up. Now, the next slide here, I'm not going to like cover every single thing, but what you guys need to know, and I'm going to kind of go through this checklist, is that a cell is the basic unit of structure and function in a living organism. Like, we started as a cell, believe it or not. Like, before you were born, you started off as a cell, and then those cells multiply, and yeah, like you're composed of trillions right now. Um, a cell is the smallest unit of life. So if it's the basic structure and function of a living thing, it's going to be the smallest part of life. So cells are really important. Cells are the building blocks of life, literally. Like, you think of those bricks to build a building, you need a lot of them. You need a lot of cells to make up a living organism. Now, I just want to let you guys know that over here is an animal cell. All these things in there that all these words are pointing at are these things that make up a cell. Like, they're even tinier. And within a cell, kind of like a manager of like a hotel or a restaurant, that manager is the boss. He controls everything else, like the bussers, the servers, the cooks, the hostess, bartender, everything. And they all work for the boss, and they know their specific job to do. Like, the bartender isn't going to go do the server's job. They do their own specific jobs to help make the restaurant function correctly. And all these things in here, these things called organelles, they all do specific jobs to help the cell function correctly. You're going to learn a lot about that next year. It's a big part of the year. I want to say you covered it at the beginning of the year, but I can't remember. So this is a cell that would be like inside us, because animals and us are considered the same thing, really, and we're going to have the same type of cell. Plants are very similar to us, very similar. Next year, you'll even know like all these little parts in there, and yeah, they are very similar to us. They're going to have a few differences, but very similar. If you notice on a plant cell, it's more rigidy looking, like it has like a defined shape. The animal cell is just kind of like a blob here. But it has these little green things in here called chloroplasts, and we don't have those, but those things help make the plant green. So just kind of a difference I want to point out to you. That's one of them. But in a plant cell, they have many different types of organelles as well. A lot of theirs are similar to ours. And yeah, that one's a plant cell. Both plant and animal cells, since plants and animals, us and other animals, are made up of trillions and trillions of cells. We're considered multicellular organisms, meaning we have multiple cells, many. Um, Other organisms that are super tiny that we don't really see, like bacteria and like amoeba, those are so tiny that they're called unicellular organisms. They're only made of one cell. That is it. They're so tiny, so microscopic. That kind of brings up this topic of the whole coronavirus stuff, COVID-19. And we're actually going to talk about that in a few minutes. But we're still on this topic of cells, just kind of being basic today, maybe basic tomorrow, and then we'll kind of build up from there over the next like 2 weeks or so. 2.5, 3 weeks. The number, like depending on the age and the species and whatever, the number of cells in plants and animals can vary from like person to person, species to species, like depends on age and everything too. But it even says here that humans contain more than 10 trillion cells. Like that's insane. Um, but yeah, most like these plants and animal cells, you're only gonna be able to see them under a microscope. Cells are microscopic. So that's unicellular and multicellular. Now, those are two big vocabulary words. Like this unit is big on vocab, but it all kind of builds. The next type here is not really type, it's just prokaryotic versus eukaryotic. We'll start with prokaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are cells without a nucleus. Most of your prokaryotic cells are going to be the ones that are single-celled organisms, like the bacteria. So yeah, they're gonna look like this. It almost reminds me of like a pill or something with like a little tail attached to it. Um, but yeah, so prokaryotic and unicellular, I kind of branch together. Eukaryotic cells, on the other hand, are cells that do have a nucleus. Now, the nucleus is like the manager, the boss of the cell. So this one doesn't have a manager or a boss, but this one does, and it's right there in the middle. Eukaryotic cells are usually larger than prokaryotic cells and are found mainly in multicellular organisms. So all our cells are going to be eukaryotic. Eukaryotic and multicellular, I kind of put those two together. Okay. Now, people, other animals, those are good examples of organisms that are eukaryotic. We will get more in depth with this, but as we kind of learn more. So this is kind of basic today. So what's inside a cell? I just told you that guys that all these things inside here, like that red thing, the yellow thing, those are all items called organelles. They're going to be found in eukaryotic or multicellular organisms, and organelles help the cell function properly. I already said that. And it's kind of similar to organs in the human body, like your lungs help you breathe. The mitochondria in the cell, which is these red things in this picture, those are like the powerhouse of the cell, give the cell that energy to carry out all its jobs. And these all like kind of float in there. And if you can imagine like Jello, that's kind of what it would be, or like hand sanitizer, kind of like that consistency. It like floats in there, and that's called cytoplasm, all this blue area in between. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're getting at with this unit is classifying life, but we're starting very small. You're going to watch two short videos coming up. So the first video is going to be on multicellular and unicellular. I'm going to pause, and yeah, you're going to watch it.
Unicellular and multicellular. A cell. a single unit of life. Cellular, to be made of cells. All organisms are made of cells. However, some organisms are multicellular and other organisms are unicellular. The meanings of these words can be determined by understanding prefixes. A unicycle is a bicycle with one tire. A guy with one eyebrow has a unibrow. In both cases, the prefix uni was used as the word one. A unicellular organism is a living thing that's made of one cell. Some pond water organisms, like amoebas and paramecium, are unicellular. These organisms never get bigger than one cell. However, when they do multiply through cell division, it is a form of asexual reproduction. The word multicellular can be better understood by looking at the prefix. Multimillionaire is a person with many millions of dollars. The word multicolored describes something having many different colors. In both cases, the prefix multi was used as the word many. A multicellular organism is a living thing made of many cells. Land plants and animals are multicellular. Although you are made with a large number of cells, one day you were formed by a fertilized egg cell. That cell developed through the process of cellular division to become the complex organism that you are today. Unicellular and multicellular.